Okay, so maybe you're thinking about a career as an ICT application configurator,
Interesting.
and you're thinking, is that really the right path for me? Well, that's what we're diving into today.
Sounds good.
We're going to figure out what this role really involves.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, when I first heard that title, ICT Application Configurator, I pictured like someone in a dark room
Uh-huh.
with a bunch of computer screens, just like, moving knobs and pushing buttons.
Yeah, I can see that. It sounds very technical.
Very technical.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, you got it. It's way more dynamic than you might think.
Okay, good. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Today we're looking at some excerpts from RoleCatcher.com.
Okay.
They have a bunch of really good resources about different careers.
Mm-hmm.
And the one we're looking at specifically is Career Guide, ICT Application Configurator.
Right.
And I thought a good place to start would be just like, what does an ICT Application Configurator actually do? Because I think there are a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of a mouthful, that title.
It is.
ICT Application Configurator. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't.
But the work itself is really interesting. Think about it this way. If software is a custom-built house,
Okay.
the ICT Application Configurator is the one who comes in and tailors that house to the homeowner's specific needs.
Okay.
They're not just choosing the paint color. They're deciding where the light switches go. They're setting up that smart home system, maybe even adding a jacuzzi if the client wants to be fancy.
So it's all about customization.
Exactly.
Taking something that's kind of like a blank slate and making it actually functional for the people who are going to be living in it, in this case, using the software.
You got it. It's about bridging the gap between the technical side and the business needs.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay. So we've established that it's not just about like, tweaking a few settings here and there.
No, not at all.
It's about really understanding how a business operates and then translating that into the software itself.
Absolutely.
And the career guide on RoleCatcher, it gets into the nitty-gritty of the skills you need.
It does.
It's not just like, oh, be good with computers.
Right. You need a good mix of technical skills and business acumen.
We're talking creating those complex business rules, developing whole modules within the software, even configuring those massive off-the-shelf systems that businesses rely on.
It's a lot more than I initially pictured.
Me too.
Yeah.
And something else that really stood out to me is that they work with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like they're just, off in a corner coding by themselves.
Nope. They're collaborating all the time.
They're working with developers, project managers, even the people who are going to be using the software every single day.
Exactly.
So I'm sensing that being a people person is a pretty important part of this job.
Absolutely. You have to be able to understand what everybody needs, translate that into how the software actually works.
It's like being a tech-savvy interpreter for a business.
Perfect way to put it. You're bridging that communication gap.
Okay, that's really cool. So we're talking high demand, potentially high stress. But let's talk about what makes this role rewarding,
Sure.
like beyond the paycheck, because obviously everyone wants to get paid well.
Of course. Yeah.
But what is it about this career that would get you up in the morning excited to go to work?
Well, I think the guide touches on something really important, which is that businesses now, more than ever, rely on custom software
That's true.
across all industries. And so if you have the skills to configure that software to make it work seamlessly for those businesses,
Yeah.
you're in high demand, which
Yeah.
often translates to those, really competitive salaries.
Right.
But beyond the money, I think there's a real sense of satisfaction knowing that the configurations you're creating, the work that you're doing, is actually the engine driving a company's success.
That you're making an impact.
Yeah. You're making a real difference in how smoothly things run and ultimately how successful that company can be.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound pretty fulfilling, knowing that you're kind of like the behind-the-scenes hero.
Exactly. The silent problem solver.
But the guide also mentions potential downsides. It's not all sunshine and roses, is it?
It's not always easy, that's for sure.
We're talking long hours, high stress levels.
Sometimes.
And this one got me a constant need to learn new technologies because the tech world is not standing still.
It moves so fast. Faster than I can keep up with sometimes, I'll be honest.
It's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle, right?
Exactly. And that's why this field is not for everyone.
Okay, yeah, if you're someone who likes things to be very predictable.
Right. Or if you like to, learn something once and then just do that for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
This is probably not the field for you.
This is not the one.
You got to be comfortable with that constant learning, with being a little bit uncomfortable to stay ahead of the game.
Because what's cutting edge today is going to be like ancient history tomorrow.
Exactly.
But for those who love a good challenge, who get excited about new tech, who are like, bring it on, I'm ready to learn.
That's the spirit.
This could be like incredibly stimulating.
For sure, even addictive. It's like, you solve one problem, you master one technology, and then there's a whole new one waiting just around the corner.
It's like a never-ending puzzle.
Exactly. And who doesn't love a good puzzle, right?
Well, it reminds me of how athletes are always training, to improve their performance.
Right. Pushing their limits.
They're not just like, oh, I won one game, I'm done.
They got to keep getting better.
It's like a constant evolution.
Exactly. And speaking of leveling up, I love how this guide, it actually maps out a whole career path for ICT application configurators.
Oh, that's cool.
From junior level all the way to lead configurator, so you can really see how much room for growth there is in this field.
Okay, so you're not just stuck in one position forever. You can really, climb that ladder.
Right.
And what I found interesting is how much emphasis they put on, even at the junior level, on being meticulous, on documentation, on making sure that every single implementation is perfect.
Right. It's all about precision.
They're not messing around with the details in this role.
Not at all. Attention to detail is paramount. It's like building a house of cards, one tiny mistake,
Yeah,
and the whole thing crumbles.
that's a lot of pressure.
It can be, but I think it's also what makes it so rewarding.
Yeah, because when you get it right,
It's a great feeling.
you know that you've built something solid, something that's actually going to work.
Exactly. It's about those behind-the-scenes victories.
Okay, I love that. So you might not be, the one on the cover of the magazine,
Right.
but you're the one making sure that the whole system hums along flawlessly.
And that's a pretty important job, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say you're listening to this, and you're like, all right, this ICT application configurator thing, this is me, this is my jam.
Yeah.
What comes next? How do you actually land one of these awesome jobs?
Well, luckily, RoleCatcher, they've got you covered.
They really do think of everything.
They do. Their guide, RoleCatcher ACER Interviews with Tailored Questions and AI-Powered Practice, this one is like a goldmine.
Okay.
If you are serious about getting a job as an ICT application configurator,
It's like interview prep on steroids.
exactly. It's got all these potential interview questions, and some of these are tough.
I bet.
They're designed to really make you think on your feet.
Okay, so it's not just about knowing how to, code in a specific language or
Nope.
knowing the ins and outs of a particular software.
You got to go deeper than that.
Okay, so what are they looking for then?
They want to see how you think critically.
Okay.
How do you unravel a problem,
Yeah.
And most importantly, how do you take those technical skills that you've got and apply them to real-life business challenges?
So it's one thing to ace a coding test.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to be able to walk into a room and explain to a bunch of executives how your configuration is going to solve their business problems
You got it.
and do it the way that they understand.
Exactly. You got to be able to speak their language.
So it's like that old saying, give a man a fish,
He eats for a day.
teaches a man to configure software.
Now you're talking.
I don't know, we'll work on the saying, but you get the point.
I do. And I think the RoleCatcher guide, they have this one question, and it's so spot on.
Okay, what is it?
Can you describe your experience with configuring ICP applications? But they're not asking you for a list of software names.
Right, no buzzwords allowed.
They want to hear about a project that you owned, the obstacles that you overcame, and how your specific configuration made a real, tangible difference for the business.
So it's all about storytelling.
It is. You got to be able to tell a good story.
Okay, and I'm sensing a theme here because all those internships, those volunteer projects, even just personal projects, those aren't just resume fillers.
They're your stories.
Those are your interview stories. Those are the things that are going to make you stand out.
Absolutely. They make you memorable.
And prove that you can actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more challenging, the guide throws in some curveballs.
No, like what? Give me an example.
Questions about agile methodology,
Okay.
the ITIL framework, even DevOps.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah,
Those sound a little bit like secret societies in the tech world.
maybe they are.
Can you break those down for us mere mortals?
Of course.
Because I'm pretty sure I just heard 3 acronyms that I don't fully understand.
Okay, so think of these as playbooks, right?
Uh-huh.
For how modern software teams actually work.
Okay.
So agile, That's all about staying flexible, being able to adapt to change really quickly, because the tech world moves fast.
Right. No more like waterfall method where you're like, oh, stuck in the mud for years on end.
Exactly. You got to be nimble. Then you've got ITIL.
Okay.
It's like the rule book for making sure IT services are always consistent, they're reliable, they're delivered on time.
So it's all about like keeping the trains running on time, but for software.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. And then DevOps.
DevOps. That's like the ultimate team sport.
Okay.
Bringing together the developers, the operations folks, everybody working together.
So it's like breaking down the silos.
Exactly.
No more like devs versus ops. It's like everyone working together towards a common goal.
Exactly, to build and deliver software faster and smoother.
Okay, so it's not enough to be a coding wizard in your basement anymore.
Nope.
You got to be a team player.
100%.
Got to be able to communicate, collaborate.
And that brings us to our final source from RoleCatcher.
Okay.
RoleCatcher, streamline your job search.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with all the skills in the world, even if you ace that interview, actually finding your dream ICT application configurator gig, that's a whole other challenge.
Right.
That's a whole other beast.
It's like you've learned how to cook this amazing gourmet meal.
Yeah.
But now you got to find the right ingredients, the right kitchen, maybe even some hungry guests to appreciate all your hard work.
I love that analogy. That's perfect.
Right.
And this guide, it's all about helping you find those perfect ingredients for your job search.
And it's not just about, like, taking any job right.
Right.
It's about finding that place where you're really going to thrive.
Absolutely. Finding a company whose values align with yours. A place where you can really see yourself growing and learning for years to come.
It's like finding the work wife or work husband
There you go.
that you can geek out with over all things ICT.
Exactly. Someone who gets just as excited about a new software update as you do.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of growth, I want to circle back to that roadmap we were looking at in the career guide,
Okay, yeah.
because they mapped out that whole career path from junior all the way to lead ICT application configurator.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I think it's really encouraging to see how much room there is for advancement in this field.
It's not a dead-end job, that's for sure.
Not at all. And even at the beginning, like, they're not just throwing you into the deep end without a life preserver.
No, they ease you in.
They really emphasize documentation and making sure every single implementation is perfect, even at that junior level.
Well, they got to make sure you're not going to break anything.
Right. So you're learning the ropes, but you're also making sure that those software systems are ship-shape right from day one.
Exactly. Because in the world of ICT, precision is everything.
It's like they say, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
And believe me, you do not want to be the weakest link in an ICT system.
No, thank you.
Because when those systems go down, everybody feels the pain.
Everyone. So it sounds like this career path really rewards those people who, they might not need to be in the spotlight.
Right.
They might not need to be on the cover of a magazine.
They're the unsung heroes.
Yes. But they get a thrill out of those behind-the-scenes victories, out of knowing that they built something that really works.
Exactly. They're the ones keeping the engine running.
Okay, so maybe you've got a couple years of experience under your belt. You're moving up that career ladder. What's next?
Well, you're not just a configurator anymore at that point. You start taking on more responsibility, maybe leading a team.
Okay.
You're strategizing. You're becoming a trusted advisor to the business.
So you're leveling up.
Exactly. It's like a video game, but instead of fighting monsters, you're conquering complex software challenges.
I like that. So I'm picturing, like, maybe down the line, you could even specialize in a certain industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you become the go-to guru for configuring healthcare software, or maybe you're like the maestro of a specific system.
Exactly. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
And that actually reminds me, because we talked about technology changing constantly.
Oh, yeah. Always.
The career guide even hinted that we might see even more specialized roles popping up in the future of ICT application configuration.
Oh, for sure. As technology evolves, so too will the roles that support it.
It's like we're building a skyscraper while we're still figuring out how to use a hammer and nails.
That's a great way to put it.
Because the technology is just advancing so rapidly.
Which is why it's so important to have that mindset of continuous learning.
Yes.
Because the skills you have today, they might not be enough 5 years from now.
You always got to be learning, always got to be growing.
Exactly. Embrace the unknown.
I love that. So what do you think? After this deep dive, do you feel like you have a better understanding of what an ICT application configurator really does?
I hope so. We've gone from picturing someone in a dark room pushing buttons
Right.
to seeing them as the architects of how businesses actually use technology.
And as the ones who are really shaping how businesses are going to operate in an increasingly tech-driven world.
Absolutely. They're the bridge between humans and machines.
I love that. So if you're someone who loves problem solving, who gets excited about new tech, and who wants to make a real difference in how businesses thrive,
This could be your calling.
keep exploring, keep those learning gears turning, and who knows, you might just become the next ICT application configurator extraordinaire.
Go out there and configure the world.
That's a wrap.